How is it going, everyone? So this is TrueTERRAIN 5's full release. We're going to be going over a couple of things in this video just to get you all started, and then there will be more videos coming out with some sort of follow along methods and making some scenes and whatnot. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do obviously is make sure that you install the add-on. You do this obviously in here. If you grab just the TrueTERRAIN version 5.0.0 zip and sort of just drag that on to Blender Anywhere, it'll ask you if you want to install it. You click OK, it will do its thing. It might just disappear for now, and then you should get a notification saying it's installed or reinstalled. And then obviously once you've installed the content, the add-on, you're going to want to install the content packs. So we come to add-ons, open up the drop down, and we click the import. We click the import pack button, and from here we can just grab any of these or all of these. So you should have 4 files: starter pack, so your assets, height maps, map pack, and element pack. We click import, and then Blender will do its thing. It'll import the files. It could take a couple of minutes to do this, but once it's done this, it should automatically reload and everything should be there. So I'm just going to pause this while it's doing its thing. And as you can see there, it took roughly around a minute and a half on my end. It might take a little bit longer. It can take up to a couple of minutes. One thing I would say, or there's 2 caveats here. If you have an existing version of TrueTERRAIN 5, so if you've been with us for the last year through all of our early access stuff, I would highly recommend completely starting sort of fresh. You can just use the update, the install update function to grab the new file, and then you can delete. So if you come to packs, if you hold sort of Alt and click the negative button on these, it will remove those packs. We're recommending installing the packs again because we've gone through, optimized them, and they now have like presets built into them. So you can see if we reload our presets, there are presets built into all of these sort of packs for people to actually start to use. They're not in the old ones, so make sure you grab the new files from Gumroad and Blender Market. The downloads are smaller and we're using less space now, so there is that. And the other thing, so point 2, if you get any kind of warning message or an error or something when you've imported the content, just re-import one zip file. So click import pack, grab something like the material pack, import that, let it reload, and then import the rest of them if you do get any error messages. But that shouldn't happen, but if it does, that's all you need to do. So let's move on to actual terrain creation. I'm getting a warning message that my keyboard is on its way out of battery. So let's fix this. Give me a cable. There we go. What a beauty. So, TrueTERRAIN 5. Obviously the first thing you're going to do is create a terrain. So we click create a terrain, and you'll get a dialog pop-up box. So in here you can choose like any of these as defaults. These will give you default options. If you want to bypass this, you can hold Alt and click this, and it'll just create like a default terrain. So when we come to the terrains themselves, we have a couple of options. Our global settings up here, which is how it controls the resolution of the grid. So you can set a fixed density, density resolution, or adaptive. Adaptive uses cameras, so make sure that you have a camera in the scene if you're doing this. And what we're going to do, we're just going to change the clip end to 10 kilometers for now. And if we move this forward, let's move this closer down, you can see that the terrain in adaptive mode will change its resolution based on how close you are or whatever these settings are. So let's move back to fixed and come out of camera for now. I'll move this slightly over. So vertice amount is the amount of vertices that your terrain is going to have. If we set this low, you can see there's nothing. If we set this higher, you can see it becomes more detailed. In fixed resolution, that is, in density, when we set this to like 1 or something, if we scale a terrain up or down, the density stays the same, so the resolution is visually as detailed. If we move this up, you can see that if we go to 1500 meters in size, we can see that the terrain is staying nice and detailed. If we go to fixed and go back down to 1000, you can see that this is the sort of resolution. If we go up to 3000, you can see it becomes noticeably less detailed, and that is how the resolution settings work. You can set viewport LOD, so you can set a viewport proxy so that if you're working in something really high, let's say 2048, and you want the viewport amount to be lower, you can do that. We automatically adjust the viewport amount just to make sure that, you know, things are still responsive, but you can turn this off, this little sort of warning icon here. You can turn this off here, or you can turn it off in the preferences. So let's go back to something like 1024. Let's set this to 0.5 for now. Then we have the height settings. So these you don't really need to adjust that much. I would recommend going into the docs and reading about these, but you can swap between different anchor points. So basically, if you set it to the lowest, and then if we come over here and just set our height, you can see the height moves up from the bottom. If we go back to the anchor point and we set this from the highest, and we move the height, you can see it moves down from the top. So this is how the anchor points work. It's set to middle by default, so it'll sort of bounce around its center point, which is the most intuitive, but you can sort of set this to whatever one you want. And then height multiplier, this is the overall, so for every layer that's ever on the terrain, this will adjust the overall height of this, and you can change this to a height range, so you can set it to be only ever in 200 meters or 300 meters or whatever, and you can offset the mesh here too. So I'm going to set that back to default. And then the final option in the global settings is the diorama. This just adds walls to terrains. People wanted this for some reason, so I'm guessing so they can make like terrains appear on CG desktops or in CG bottles or whatever it is. But yeah, that's basically that, and you can assign your own material here with that option. Okay, so now we're on to the layer tab, so let's close all these over. So this is the layer tab. This is the same across all of our tabs here. So water, scatter, shader all have this layer window. And from here you can set new layers. So if we want to grab a height map, we can choose one of the height maps and we can click OK, and this will come in. We can change the height map options, we can remove it, we can add a group. So if you want to group a couple of things together, like a couple of terrain noises, you can do that. You can add a basic texture, which is just any of Blender's sort of default built-in procedural textures. So you see we can go to Voronoi and change the scale options of it here and the detail amount and all of these things. Any controls that you have for the layer are in the layer tab. Any blending, so if you want to blend between two layers, let me just grab a height map. It doesn't matter which one, let's just grab one, and we're going to blend this based on a zero edge border. So let's add a zero edge border in, which is just, if we hide this, you can see is like a sort of circular border. Let me turn the floor off for this, and let me put wireframe on for now. Maybe reduce the wireframe so we can kind of see what's going on, and just reduce the opacity. So you can see that we've sort of created this border, and then in modifiers, let me remove that for now and turn this back off. And in modifiers, this is where you can like modify that layer. So if you want to blur the entire layer out, make it all soft, you can do that. If you want to flatten specific areas, you can do this also. So you see a little nubbin that attached there, so we can flatten that out. We can do, what else can we do? Inflate, deflate, remap some values, add some terracing. So if we come here, we come cliff heights, I don't know, 10 meters or something, we can set this. We can change the width of the terrace, how it's going to affect. Let's go back into non-rendered view. You can see how this works. So we can add some terracing and stuff. We can change the height of these terraces. We can change the opacity. So this is how these work. So we're in terrain noise, and as you can probably see, there's like a couple of green icons here. So anything that's in a tab panel, if it's not in the layer, if it's in the layer window, if it's in a layer tab or like a blending tab or a modifier tab, this will be presets for these options. So if we change this to hills, you can see that we've changed this terrain noise, which is still the same terrain noise, to a hills preset, and this makes adjustments to the warping values. This will make adjustments to the scale, the seed, all of this. These are all built in, so you can swap between any of these and sort of grab whichever ones you want, move them around, make the terrain a little bit bigger. So let's go 2000 or something. You can see we can do that. Let's come back here and grab a different kind of mountains. You see we've got those mountains there. These are all options inside of here. I'm not going to go over all of these. I'm going to let you guys all play around with this and adjust these values to your liking. Use the presets as a way to sort of understand what's changing and what's happening. If you see a colored block like this is a multi-layer preset. So what this will do is this will build terrains, shaders, whatever it is, based on multiple layers. So you can see in here we've got two types of layers. And this is a multi-layer preset. We can get rid of that. Let's grab another one. Arid canyons, apply this one, and you can see again inside of this group there are multiple layers. So this is how the multi-layer presets work. Some of them are core presets, so they're built into TrueTERRAIN. Some of them require content packs, so you can see these ones here. If we click this one, slightly different color, this uses the height maps that you've installed to build these layers, and you can see in here, if we sort of come to this, we can adjust these two layers together, blend them a bit together. We can move this around and it's separate to the rest, and this is the same across all of our systems. So water, scatter, shader. Water doesn't have multi-layers, I don't think, right now, but this is the same across all of these. So let's keep this nice sort of preset that we've got here. We're not going to do anything else to the terrain right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add a water layer, so we can do a couple of different water layers. Let's do lake. So we can do a lake one, and this will bring in a lake body, and you can adjust where the lake forms based on this, and you can see that it will actually sort of form to the terrain underneath. The lake itself actually is this section. So generally the easiest way to move this around is to change from position to object, and if we click this little toggle, it'll add an empty for that lake, which we can then view. Let me turn back off wireframe, which we can then view, and we can just move this up and down. So like if we move this down and we move this around, you can see that we put like a lake in places, and we can make changes to this lake in the terrain deformation section of this. So you can see here we have terrain deformation, so we can change the radius of the lake, make it wider, break up the terrain underneath. We can make it deeper, so you can see that we're actually making changes here. If we open up these sort of drop downs, we can change the way this shape is affected. So we can adjust the depth, shape, I don't know, to something like this, and maybe change the scale a little bit. And if we go to the size, shape, let's bring this down again and give it a softer sort of fall off. If we move this further down, we should see the lake just fills that area, which is nice. And shoreline, so we can add some shoreline to this. We can change the height of the shoreline area, so this is the area that's affected by this. We can change the width of this. You can see this is slightly moving here, and we can adjust the inner bounds and the outer bounds, and any ground area that is affected. So again, play around with these. Fall off will bring all of this in. We can bring the height of it down. We can bring the width of it out. We can increase the fall off to make it all softer again. And then if we move the sort of lake around, you can see we fill this area. Really nice. And then this is all done in the geometry tab. So we can adjust the resolution here. We can change this again, fixed density, same as how it is with the terrains. If we put our camera here, we have adaptive, so we can see adaptive will make these changes. If we go into rendered view, you can see that this is more detailed in here now. Come back out into solid view, and we can change the resolution of these this viewport stuff, which is nice. Let's go back to 12. Let's close this down, and let's head over to the surface tab. So surface tab, this is where we handle the waves, we handle any foam, we handle any materials that the water has. So we can increase the absorption of the water, we can change the foam. Let me go back into rendered view so we can see this. So let's set this back down to like 5. Let's move the sun around a little bit so we can see what's going on. There we go. So we can increase the depth of, or the thickness of this water, the perceived depth. We can change what colour we want to use with these presets. So you can see we have applied these nice presets to this. We can adjust, again, sort of this water depth here. You can turn the volume off if you want completely. We can adjust any dispersion. So if we want to make the water have dispersed, sort of like this glass prism effect look, we can do this. We can reduce the dispersion and put it back on, whatever. Caustics we can do, we can swap between a texture based or geometry based. So texture based caustics are a projected texture inside which will create like light shafts. So let me just sort of show you that. Let me go back to camera, snap to the camera for a second, and let's move into the water. Where have we gone? Here we go. And I'm going to change I'm going to go back to geometry and turn depth on so we can enable the sides. We're going to go back to just like fixed for now. It's the surface, and let's just increase the volume here. So texture based, you can see that we get these sorts of light rays that cast through, and these will cast through anywhere regardless of the geometry, because these are based on a texture. And then geometry based requires there to be some geometry. So if we sort of increase the resolution to 1024, I think, there we go. Now you can see these light rays are coming through based on the actual geometry of the water. And as the water moves around, these two will also move around. So you can see I'm animating and the rays are changing. We go back into surface to look at this again. They are affected by dispersion too, so if we enable dispersion, you can see that the light will split and disperse as it should, and with textures it does the same thing, so we can change that. We can increase the amount of caustics or the intensity of them here. Let's go back to geometry, turn this off and reduce the intensity. You can see we can blur them slightly if we want them to be softer. We can add some extra shadows in there, so you can make them slightly darker. A lot of things we can do in the shader options. A lot of these have presets again, so you can see that we've got presets for the volume. We don't have any presets for just the basic shader because we don't really expect people to sort of mess around with the roughness and stuff so much. But let's go back to camera view. Let's choose a different preset. Let's go green. Yep, that's nice. Foam. So let's have a quick look at the foam. This would be best for me to show you with an actual material on this terrain. So let's actually do that. Let's jump to the shaders tab and add a material to this. And now, yeah, we've assigned this material. So it doesn't look super great right now because the terrain is low resolution, but we're not doing it for that. We're doing it so we can show you the foam. So let's go back and increase the absorption here a little bit. And you'll see on the edges of our terrain, we should have some shore foam, which we can adjust. We can change the amount that appears, where it appears. Let's reduce the sun, angle, rotation. So yeah, we can see there's foam coming here, and we can adjust that. And obviously we can, if we put things in the water, we can make those things have foam too. So we do that by actually coming here and making sure that we've got a, I don't know, like a cube. Let's put a cube right there in the water. Let's make it really big. Let's move this to a collection, call it cube, and set this to be cube. And now if we come over here and make sure that it's on this, you can see that we are generating some foam around this. Bear in mind, one caveat with this is that there needs to be some geometry on whatever you're doing, or it won't generate foam correctly, because we're picking up the points of this. But you can see there we've got some foam around this, and if we rotate this, the foam moves with it. Amazing. And let's go back to solid view, and let's add something else in. Let's get rid of the lake. Let's get rid of the cube too, and this. Let's go over to the scatter system. Let's create a scatter system and click OK. And again, we found another sort of yellow coloured box. As you can see, these are all colour coordinated, so terrain is green, water is blue, scatter is yellow. We can just click this and we can pick any of these presets that have come in. Let's grab this deciduous wood, click apply. It might take a second while it does its thing, but once it's applied, you now have this. If you're getting viewport issues like this is an easy fix. Toggle this box and everything will become a bound, and it will be very fast. And then when you go into rendered mode, I would disable your outlines so that you still have the performance. And if you're wondering, hey, this looks sort of really not like a forest at all, that is because we have viewport LODs enabled in these. So you can see that our viewport LODs are reduced massively. So if we come back to terrains and we just sort of go back to solid view and put a little render on. Let me set this to 1080p for now. Let this render. You can see much more trees, many more trees. Got different types of trees growing in here. Different variations of these things. So these presets are designed to sort of give variety at the click of a button without you having to do much in terms of working on them. So let's go out of this. Let's turn this back on so we can see our stuff. A couple of things with scatter that you'll want to know. On the layers, again, we have layer blending modifiers. You can adjust scatter. There we go. Scatter, layer, masks and modifiers, which are the same as the terrain sort of layer blending modifiers. There's some unity across all of these. You can adjust the distance between these objects, so you can see if we increase this really high. You can change the density target to either a density option or to like an actual hard targeted number. So if you only want 10,000 trees to spawn, only 10,000 will spawn. If you set it to density, this is how many trees per meter, or how many things to be scattered per meter. So 0.05 means that like a tree will spawn like every 4 meters. Correct me if the math's wrong. This here is your seed, your random seed, so this will just randomly seed things around. Viewport target, viewport amount again, so we can increase this and see how much is going on in the viewport. We don't recommend doing that. Offset just moves these things up and down. You don't need this, but we had it in 4 and people used it. Scale, you can uniformly scale everything, or you can randomly scale things. Rotation, again, so we can change the normal amount, whether it'll actually sort of align with the normals or not. We can randomize the rotation of these. There's modifiers, so you can add like a wind modifier or follow object modifier. And then at the bottom of this layer, this scatter layer, you have the materials, so we can adjust. If we go into rendered mode, you'll see this a bit easier. Yeah, let's just add snow, so you can see they go white. You can add age to these, so you can make them older. It's not a very easy thing to see with this brown floor, but that's there. And then masks, so if you use any of the presets, you'll see that masks are pre-applied. But these masks, again, all here that you can assign. Modifiers. Clumping is the only modifier that we have for scatter right now, and it basically does what it says on the tin. It clumps things together, and that's that. And then you have this other kind of window, which not a lot of people understand very well. So basically this window here is your layers, like what do you want to scatter. This is a tree, this is another tree, this is going to be my main forest, this is going to be my tertiary trees, I'm going to have some rocks in here also. And then in the layer objects you can assign different objects or multiple objects to that one layer. So obviously we're using willow trees here, so this is my willow tree layer, so I have put 3 different types of willow trees in, which are in the content packs. And in the birch trees, again, I've put 3 different types of birch trees in here, just so that we can have some variety with what's actually being spawned. So it's not just one object type, which allows you to add natural variety. Like not every tree is the same tree in real life. So that is that. So these are these things. And I appreciate that I'm kind of blasting over all of this, but this is not a follow along tutorial. This is just something that we're getting you all used to. And then in shaders, let's move over to shaders. So let's turn off our scatter options and let's go over to shaders. So we've got a shader, we've got 2 layers, that's all that this is. 2 layers, grass, let's turn our filters off, and then rocks, let's turn our filters off, and you can see it's literally just 2 layers. These have filters applied to them and then filter masks on top of those, which adds a lot more variety to what you are seeing. I'm not going to get too in depth here with how these work, that's what the documentation is for, but essentially your filters are things that would apply to that layer and only affect that layer. So we have a blending option, which is basically mix colors, brightness, contrast, dirt, gamma, which makes things darker or lighter, hue, saturation, value, you change the color of these things. So like if I just disable these and I go hue, saturation, value, and I adjust the hue to 0, you can see that the green grass is now purple. What else have we got? Invert, which just inverts it. It's not going to work for everything. It just inverts some stuff. RGB curves, so you can set up like contrast curves and whatnot. This would only really work if you have like some HSV and some gamma enabled too, because we're going to adjust all of the layers. So like it's all layer based, remember, so like whatever you do here will affect all the layers above. So if we have an RGB curves on here and we delete these, and you can pull it down, you can see we're adjusting the contrast of all of that. We're going to adjust the contrast here, amazing. And this will be sort of affecting everything above, and the same for like spots and weathering. These are all layer based, so if you have your HSV at the bottom, it will slightly affect how it's going to look if it's at the top, and again with gamma it's going to affect how things look depending on what order it's in. So bear that in mind. Masks, these are just ways to blend between layers. So right now we have a slope mask on. This just blends the grass with the stuff underneath with the slope. We can add any mask here, so we can grab a texture mask, we can choose any of the presets that we've built. So we come in here, we click this option for the presets. You can see that we can do checkerboarded tiles if we want, I don't know why you would want to, but we added it in. Voronoi patterns if you want. Other Voronoi pattern types. What else have we got? We got waves, so you can blend by waves. Again, I don't know why you would want to do all of these, but you can. And then there are options again, presets for all of these. So you've got like slope presets. What else have we got? Attribute presets. So you can assign like paint attributes, inverted paint, or erosion based attributes. So yeah, with that, I will I'll bid you a fair do with this video, and look forward to seeing you in the next ones where we go over how to create some scenes. If you've got any issues, contact us via Discord or Blender Market, and we'll do our best to help and fix whatever the problems are. Okay, see you all in the next one.